Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run.
Hey, welcome to be my guest. This is Jan Lewis. Today we have Brett Simas. Did I say it right, or Simas? Brett Simas with us on. And for many people in Upton, you know that he is running for a candidate. We have elections coming up. And Brett, I first met you, we were in the older studio back 3 or 4 years ago?
That's right.
And you were new to the area.
I sure was.
Where did you come in from?
So my wife and I and family lived in Whitensville for 7 years,
So
and
did
Sutton
I.
before that. So
Yeah.
that's where I served on the planning board and zoning board and open space committee. So
How did I miss you? Because we left Whitensville 2003.
okay,
Were
yeah.
you there then?
No, we didn't move there until about 2007.
We just missed you.
Yeah,
Because I knew the people on the board, and I thought, where was Brett?
yeah.
They've got an
I'm
active
sure
situation.
I know that a lot of the members of the zoning board and the planning board would have been on and serving in 2003. So
Yeah.
for sure we knew some of the same
So
people.
you came in from where to live in Whitensville? Where were you?
We lived in Sutton for a couple of years, and before that, Shrewsbury when we first got married.
Yeah. So what brought you to Whitensville back then?
We were just looking for more house. We had a growing family, so we were looking for an extra bedroom, and we love this area and community. My wife's family's from Blackstone,
Yeah.
and they've been in Blackstone for generations. My family's from Central Mass and Winchester and Woburn.
Oh yeah.
And I grew up in Harvard, Mass, so we've been in Central Mass for a long, long time.
How old are the kids now?
10, 6, and 2.
Gee, when I first met you, that 2-year-old
Yeah.
wasn't even here.
No, oh no, yeah, we've had him for a couple years.
So you have one boy, 2 boys?
Boy, girl, boy. And the youngest boy, Victor, we're actually slated to adopt formally next week.
How old?
So we're thrilled. 2 years old.
Oh, that you're going to adopt him?
He's been with us since he was 5 months old. We were fostering him, and now he's gone through the whole process with the state and with DCF and the courts and all that. And we're finalizing the adoption next week. So we're thrilled.
Now there's a good plug for fostering
Yes.
and then adopting.
For sure.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. It's
Well,
been
you'll
a
never
gift,
know
a
any other
blessing to
parents
us.
but you. That's it.
It's for sure.
And so now you'll have a little football team there. You're going to have 2 boys and a girl.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Is your girl the oldest?
She's in the middle, but she's probably tougher than the other 2.
She's tougher than the boys?
Yeah, she's pretty tough.
So, Brett, what made you want to run for candidate?
I've always been an advocate for and actively involved in the communities that I live in. When I was like I had mentioned, when I was in Whitensville, I was on the zoning board and planning board for several years and chairman of the planning board. And serving the community is just something that I'm passionate about. I love doing it. I love being woven into the fabric of the community that my family's living in, that my children are going to be raised in. And so since I've been in Upton, I've been an active member of the men's club. I'm currently treasurer of the men's club and on the board of directors.
Yeah.
And so it's just something that I've always been passionate about, and I'll always do from my life.
Who's the president of the men's club right now?
Mike Howell.
Okay, because when I first moved here, there was, I can't remember his last name. Well, we had approached them to get on the show. We've had everybody else, but
Great.
didn't get any response
Okay.
back. But the men's club here in Upton, always welcome to come on. Now, Brett, what do you see in Upton that you'd like as a vision to kind of improve upon? Anything?
Yeah, I mean, Upton's a great community. There's no doubt about it. All of the people that I talk to, whether it's older folks, younger folks, people with children in schools, people retired, retirees, they all acknowledge that it's a great community, it's a great town, and there's more that we can do. But I think the more that we can do is really on the margins. The vast majority of people are very happy with the town. They're very happy with what's going on. And so I think for me, the biggest thing that I'll be able to bring to the table is an extension of the work that folks have been doing for a long time. With a little more discipline, perhaps, a little more experience. I know with Steve and Gary on the board, we're going to be a very new and young board if I happen to get elected. And the key thing that I'm an advocate for is planning and involvement. So,
Planning and involvement.
Yeah.
That's
So having a multi-year plan for all of our departments that looks out 5, 10, 15 years is critical to making decisions in the short run. So every department now has a very good capital plan. It's varying degrees, but they all have some form of a capital plan. And I think what we have the opportunity to create is an integrated plan. Slightly different than a master plan. I do think that we need to recreate our master plan, which was last done in 2005.
Wow, that's
So
a long time ago.
it's a long time. They have a shelf life of 5 to 10 years.
Well, it's been
we're-
13 years
Yeah, so
already.
we're well overdue. So I think between the master plan, between the discipline capital planning, and then just setting priorities, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
people talk about needing additional space for the DPW. They talk about needing or wanting a new ambulance depending upon how we structure the fire department.
Yeah.
They talk about wanting a library. They talk about revitalizing the downtown area. So
Definitely.
there's a lot of opportunities. There's going to be some debt rolling off the books in the next couple of years. So there's a real opportunity to make some key investments without impacting taxes. And we need to be really thoughtful about that. And I think a plan and community involvement in creation of the plan is critical.
What do you think about the the church that's vacant now?
Yeah.
That whole area. What would you see as a dream for that area?
Well, I mean, I think it depends who you talk to. There's lots of opportunities. One is to create a park. And
Yeah.
when we look at the master plan from 2005, one of the primary things that the community asked for and wanted was a town common that was usable, pedestrian friendly, accessible, where you could have town meetings, fairs, shows during the winter, concerts. And so that's one opportunity. Of course, you'd need to acquire some of the land abutting
Sure.
the church that's there through
Yeah.
Milford Street.
Yeah.
Another opportunity is to do a mixed-use development. So put in a mixture of storefronts with condos on top.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And
affordable condos.
affordable. Yeah, well,
What's that?
yeah, they are putting in some affordable units up off of Hartford Ave East. They're putting in 144 units up there
Okay, Hartford Ave East.
by Shining Rock Golf Course up past Glen Ave, up in that
Okay,
area.
but they're not
Pulte is doing
associated
it.
with Shining Rock.
No, they're not associated with Shining Rock. It's a separate development, but there's going to be affordable housing in there. It's 55 plus. And
But is it
affordable.
going to be the HOA deal? The homeowners association where you pay everything every month?
Yeah, I'm not sure if they'll. I would assume there'll be a homeowners association
Yeah.
with a condo development that large. I'm not sure though. And then there's another proposal on the table for a 40B development, which is we'll have 11 affordable units right off of Miriam Way and 140.
How about for
So-
seniors? We're getting pretty squashed over here.
Yeah,
What's going to happen there?
Yeah.
How about them?
at the senior center and the COA, or are you talking about housing for
At
seniors?
housing for seniors. I
Mhm.
mean, people are living a long time. Thank God. I see in the obituaries 100 years old and over.
Yeah,
This is
great.
wonderful. And for those of us coming up,
Yeah.
where are we all going to go?
Yeah, I think between Millhouse and Coach Road Apartments, there's a fair number of housing inventory. I don't
Mhm.
know how full those are.
Yeah.
I'd have to check.
Yeah.
But I know they're there, so it's great to have those kind of assets in the community.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the planning process. If we need more senior housing, more affordable housing, then it's a conversation that we need to have. I know
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
there's proposals for a lot of condo units
Mm.
coming into the market and into the inventory. We have to evaluate how many do we need, what's the demand going to be over the next 5, 10, 15 years, think about what our growth is, think about what the changing demographics are, and make sure we've got housing for everybody in the community.
That's the problem. People, with this housing market right now, you'll see a lot of houses out there that are selling for maybe $50,000 over what they really are worth. That's because of the real estate market. We have a friend who's a realtor, and boy, I'm telling you, that house that you might see, which would normally go for maybe $250,
Mhm.
we know somebody went over almost like $400,000. I went, what? Okay, they made a deal. I guess it's a bidding war. There aren't
Yeah.
that many out there, so there's
Yeah.
a bidding war. The problem comes with when somebody loves this town, sells their place,
Mhm.
where are they going to go that they can afford?
Mhm.
Wouldn't it be nice if they could stay and
Mhm.
afford it?
Yeah, I think that's a common problem in a lot of these bedroom
Yeah.
communities
Yeah.
where people have lived a long time, they've come here to raise their families, or their families have been in town for generations, and as
Uh-huh.
they age out, it's harder and harder for them to keep up with the taxes that have continually been going up. If you look at our taxes over the past 10 years,
Oh, it's
they've
crazy.
gone up tremendously.
It's nuts.
And the way I describe it to people is there's a natural push-pull tension between taxes and services, right? There's always this balance that you're trying to strike.
Yeah.
And I think that if you look at Upton over the past 10 years, people are very, very satisfied and happy about the services that have been provided. The schools are better, the roads are in good shape. The fire department, the police department, we have an accredited police department. So town services and town departments are functioning very well because they're well funded. But that pendulum, I think, has swung about as far as it can go in terms of reach the limit of what the taxes can be. We're higher with our tax rate and our total tax assessments than all the surrounding communities, Southborough, Westborough, certainly Northbridge and Grafton and Upton and Millbury. Higher than all those. The closest comparable that I've been able to find is Harvard, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
they have much higher assessments than we do. So, again, we have to decide what the model is, what our priorities in town, and I still think that having that master plan is critical, managing to a particular tax rate is critical, and I do think that we're at the limit of what the tax rate can reasonably be.
When is the election, Brett?
May 15th.
May 15th.
At
Brett,
Nitma.
how can people reach you if they have questions?
They can email me at brettsimas@gmail.com, and I will respond to your emails, and they can get in touch with me that way.
We're talking with Brett Simas, and he is running for candidate for selectman. And there are one or two positions open on it. Is this one?
There's one position that opens up every year. So every year there's an election. There's 3 Board of Selectmen, and there's a position that opens up every year. So each year there's a new candidate up with one slot.
And you've met our new town manager. He's really great.
I've met with Derek.
He's been on the show.
Yeah, great.
Smart guy.
He's a smart guy.
Like
He's
him.
certainly committed and hardworking and professional, and knows as much as one could know about town management for where he is in his career, and I think he's a great asset to the community. And
Very
I
down to
look
earth.
forward to
Very
working with
easy
him.
to talk with.
Mhm.
I found anyway.
Yeah.
I found.
Yeah.
Now, are you going to be? You're going to be the Bloomer Girls. I used to be on the Bloomers Girls. We, in fact, I hosted one of the debates. You
Yeah.
know they have over in the town hall.
I do. We're going to be preparing for one on the Thursday before the
But
election.
be careful, because the acoustics, as we all know, in that building
Yeah.
are awful. And I remember, cable television taped it. You couldn't hear the people, what you guys were saying.
Yeah. So there's 2 things I would say about that, and
Yeah.
one of them's probably a little bit controversial.
That's all right.
Yeah. So the
Be
first
controversial.
thing I'll say, which is not controversial, is that the candidates' night, as I understand it, for this year is going to be held in the little town hall room, which is where the
Good.
Board
That's
of
the one
Selectmen meet.
upstairs. That's
Where
great.
the Board of Selectmen
Yeah.
meet. My concern initially was that it was too small,
Yeah.
but it can accommodate up to 40 people. So
Okay.
people should come early if they want to get a seat. And
Standing room.
It may be some standing room only. So that's the downside. The upside is that the acoustics will be great.
And also, if you can't happen to not be able to find a seat, don't worry, because it'll be on. You'll be able to hear Brett and the other people so much better, and it'll be on the show anyway. It'll be on television.
Yeah.
So if you couldn't get a seat, no worries. You might not be there that day, but
Yeah.
you'll see the same thing.
Yeah.
You'll see the same thing.
That's right.
Are you looking forward?
Of course, yeah, I love that. I love being able to talk with the community, answer questions, find out what's on people's minds.
Yeah.
That always helps. And I mean, that's what I've spent the past year doing since I ran last year, is getting to know and talking to as many people in the community as I can. I love doing it. I would do it whether or not I was running for selectman.
Yeah.
I love being part of the town and understanding what the issues are, what people's concerns are, what they like, what they don't like, what their concerns are, and seeing how we can bring people together to help.
When I first met you, Brett, what were you running for back then? I had Dave Meridian on.
Yeah.
Were you two running against each other?
No, that was Sean Craig ran against David Meridian for Congress 4 years ago, I think,
Okay.
approximately 3 or 4 years ago. So.
Okay, because I know when you were running for selectman at that time when
Yeah.
I met you.
Yeah.
It seems like a long time ago. The show is coming up on its 6-year anniversary.
Wow!
This particular one.
Congratulations. That's great.
And next month, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
wow.
I've done many different stations all over different areas, of Worcester included.
Yeah.
This took off like a rocket.
Great.
Because we have people from all over New England and
Yeah,
beyond.
yeah.
And you could be sitting with somebody from New York City who's visiting Boston
Cool.
who's sitting tomorrow.
Yeah,
So
great.
but you get a lot of coverage. We're on
Great.
YouTube, we're locally, we're internationally online. So you're going to be able to get this out any way you want.
Well, I
You will
appreciate
probably be
that.
on today and tomorrow initially, and then
Great.
I believe it goes on 3 times a day.
Yeah, that's great. And if it's on YouTube, you can link it and put it on Facebook and
Yeah.
share it with your friends and
Definitely.
see what
It's
people
yours to
think.
use. Put
Great.
it on your site.
Thanks.
So, all right, we're talking about some of the things you're thinking of. Maybe when you said the, what was it? Having a plan, more of a
Mhm.
master plan.
Mhm.
What was that all about?
So there's a master plan is a formal process that a town can go through, and it's really important. Again, Upton has a master plan from 2005, and the reason I like the master plan, I'm not a big fan of over-administering processes and creating things for the sake of themselves. What I think a master plan allows us to do is cast a very broad net in the community. You know, we've got 7,700 people in the community. We've got 5,000 registered voters. You know, anywhere from 1,000 to 1,200 vote in any election, 100 to 150 show up at town meeting.
Yeah.
So as you go from that base of 7,700, there's not a lot of ways to get a lot of feedback from a broad swath of community. A master plan requires that you do that. It requires that you have multiple public meetings that are well publicized. It requires that you go out and do surveys and send out questionnaires to the
Right.
community to have people respond in. So you'll get the broadest perspective on what the town wants by doing a master plan. And that's why it's so important that we do that. And it will take some time to do, but I think it's well worth it. And the plan that was done in 2005 was fantastic. The people that did it I've met.
We need to upgrade it a little bit.
We just need to update it. I don't even think of it as an upgrade. It's more of an update. A lot of what was in the master plan hasn't been done, frankly.
Yeah.
So there's opportunities to take advantage of some of the things that we still are priorities, but also validate, whether or not there's a new set of priorities. Do people still want an accessible town common, or do they want more stores and development and condos?
What
And
do you
that's just
think?
what we
What's
have
your
to
hunch
ask
on
them.
that? What do you think? What's your gut feeling?
I've talked to a lot of people, and I think there's really two camps. My sense is that the younger demographic, typically, or more so than the older demographic, people with children and families tend to want more usable space. They like the idea of a town common. They believe this is a bedroom community. They want it to stay very rural. They like all the open space, and the idea of having a town green is very appealing to them. That's accessible. We have one there. We clearly would have to manage and take care of the memorials and figure out how we integrated those into whatever a new plan would be. But I think that most people in that demographic are more passionate about having a town common. When you talk to some older folks, they're a little more concerned about taxes and spending, so the idea of using public funds to acquire a town green and acquire the land to do that, they're a little skeptical, and they tend to more want some businesses and think we need some business tax base. So that's the other part of the consideration is,
Boy, there's a
what's the
great
tax
argument on either
implications?
side.
There really is, and none of this is going to
And
be none of
Brett
this is going to be
presents
easy.
it so well. That's what I like. I'm hearing both sides of it here.
Yeah.
This is a tough one. I mean, really, they both have merit.
They really do, and I think that's why you need to ask the question, because what I think may one way or the other, that's not necessarily what should happen. What should happen is what the majority of taxpayers want to happen.
So the election
because it's
is
their town.
What's that? May
15th.
May
that
15th.
month,
But
yeah.
we're going to have. Isn't the town meeting before that?
The town meeting is before that, so they flipped it this year.
Oh, I don't know if
so
was that smart. Shouldn't they have you guys on board first?
Well, I think the idea is that it was putting the newly elected selectmen in an interesting position to have to communicate and speak at a town meeting for which they weren't really prepared, and they weren't part of the process of creating the warrants, of doing all the research and pulling it together.
Yeah.
So I think the idea was to take the selectmen that were part of that process and have them present at the town meeting, and then the next year give the select board the same opportunity to be prepared before they go into town
So
meeting.
you'll be speaking at our town meeting.
Not as a Board of Selectmen member, no. Certainly if there's something I'm passionate about as a citizen, I'll go up and talk about it and share
Our
my
town
perspective.
meetings here in Upton, I mean, I get the biggest kick out of town meetings. I know they can go on forever, and sometimes you have to leave by 10, but I love seeing the different people lining up and giving their some of them love to go on and on, but it's fun.
Yeah,
It's fun.
It is. And it's a really important part of local government, and the New England style of government and governing goes back obviously a long way, and it's really important. It's the place where the community can have a voice.
Yeah.
And as many people as possible should show up. I think that we can do more to get the town more engaged.
It's
to
pretty
increase
crowded in there,
transparency.
though, right?
No, there's 5,000 registered voters, and there's about 100 to 150 people that
That's
show
all?
up to town meeting. Yeah.
No, I'm talking about the big one over at the school.
Yeah.
It seems to me it's packed.
No,
They're up in the
it's-
back in the balcony. And
Yeah,
No?
there's a very small percentage of our voting population
I didn't know that.
show up, and yes, it really is, and that's, it is what it is. Everybody's busy,
Sure.
but I think that if people knew more about what was going on in town and
They'd
more
come.
about what the issues were,
Sure.
then they would come. I think if there's a controversial issue on, whether it's something to do with the schools or something to do with a particular department, that the people that are particularly interested in that issue will show up in mass, and then sometimes they'll leave after that issue gets voted on. And again, that's okay. The idea is to get as many people involved as possible so that we're making the best decisions that represent the most people in the community.
So it'll be before the election, and
Yeah.
you as a citizen,
Yeah,
all right, you'll be watching it from that point of view, and you
Sure.
can still get up and give your opinions.
of course.
If you get elected, you'll be sitting right up on the dais. We have a wonderful, we call him Mr. Manager, Dave Loper.
Yeah.
He's really terrific. He's a neighbor of ours.
Oh, great.
And I can't picture anyone else doing it.
Yeah.
He is really, when I
does a
first
great
moved to this
job.
town, I didn't know. He'd say, FinCom, and FinCom would say, FinCom positive, Mr. Manager, something like that.
Yeah.
I said to my husband, what is a FinCom? He had to tell me it's a finance committee. So anybody out there who doesn't know, it almost sounds like a fish or a shark.
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
FinCom?
Yeah,
Now I
there's
know.
a lot of jargon in town government, just like there is in companies and businesses and everywhere.
Oh, what's a FinCom? If he just said finance committee, I would have known what it
that would
was.
have helped, yeah.
So,
yeah.
were you interested in town politics as a kid or in high school?
That's a good question. I don't think it manifested itself as town politics. I was always very social and interested in what was going on with friends, family, various events and sort of happenings in town. I never associated with town politics. I wasn't on student government or student council
I picture
or
you on
anything like
fine,
that.
yeah.
When I got into college is when I really started to get involved more in some leadership positions. So I was part of a national fraternity. I was president of the local chapter of the national fraternity. I was a founding chairman of an interfraternity and sorority
Which fraternity did you
government
go to?
council, Alpha Delta Gamma.
And I went to Plymouth State
UDG.
University of New Hampshire. We had a lot
Yeah.
of fraternities and
Yeah,
sororities.
yeah. So that's when I really started to get more involved in more formal types of leadership opportunities. So that's something that's just stayed with
It
me.
comes naturally. What do you do, Brett, for work outside of running for selectman?
Yep, so I'm a vice president of transformation at Fidelity Investments. So I've worked for Fidelity Investments for 13 years. Prior to that, I was with Bank of America and Fleet Boston Financial for 10 years. So I've always been in the financial services industry doing business architecture, technology, strategy, functioning really as an internal consultant.
So you're real good with math. I'll bet you really did well in school in math, right?
Well,
The
I don't
numbers?
know. Little bit, I did minor in economics, so that might help a
My
little bit.
grandfather
but-
majored in that in Clark
Yeah.
University.
Oh, great. My wife graduated from Clark.
Really?
Yeah, and
Well,
her sister and her brother.
Okay, 1908. My grandfather was.
No,
there.
that was a little before my my wife and her siblings.
I don't know what he would think. I took my son,
1908,
my
that's
young
great.
son, over there to see it,
Mm-hmm.
and to see the old yearbook of my grandfather's over there. And I don't know what he would have thought of the way it looks in that part of Worcester now, in that area.
It probably looks a little different.
The campus is still gorgeous,
Yeah.
but it makes you wonder. Brett, again, how can people get a hold of you if they have questions when you're running for selectman?
Yeah, the best way to get in touch with me is Brett Simas, BRETTSIMAS, @gmail.com, and I'll follow up and return your email address.
Okay,
Or return your
and
email.
election is coming up again
Yeah,
on
May 15th
May
at
15th
Nipmuc.
over at Nipmuc. And do you know the hours that people can come in?
Yep, I think it starts at 7 and goes until 8 p.m. 7 in the morning to 8 p.m.
7 to 8 p.m. Will you be having any kind of column in our upcoming newspapers between then and now?
So there is last year the Milford Daily News did an interview with me and ran a column, and I tried getting in touch with them. It doesn't look like that's something that they are doing this year. And then so you can place ads in the town crier, but
Sure.
they don't run specific pieces on candidates, which is fine. So the best way to learn about what we represent and what we're trying to do is, there's some small ads we put in the town crier,
Sure.
these shows and getting the word out through things like Be My Guest, and also showing up to candidates night and or emailing or calling me. I'm really someone's very open to getting feedback and responding to people and
Very
making
good.
sure that we get the word out.
That's good that people feel very comfortable. You can contact Brett Simas. You got some questions, maybe you saw the show today, and you'd like to ask him further what he believes in this. You're very open to talking about it, seeing both sides.
Yeah,
I've noticed
sure.
that about Brett. He sees both sides, and that's extremely important. You may not agree with one side, but at least you're willing to hear what they're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's critical. I always approach communication as, we need to work to have mutual understanding,
Yeah.
and that's critical. We don't have to agree. Effective communication isn't about agreement.
There you go.
It's about understanding. So my goal in everything I do is to try to understand as much as I can, get as much information as I can, get as much data as I can, talk to as many people as I can, understand both sides so we have that open communication. And then when we need to make a decision, we make a decision. You're not going to agree with everybody. You just try to find and do what makes the most sense to you. But it's critical to have that understanding first.
I know you said you lived in Whitensville, and I did too. And I raised my son basically in Whitensville and Grafton. And at that age, when you're raising your child, you're thinking, well, of course I want the schools. Of course, we want the schools to be the best, and if we have to take taxes to, But as you get older and your child is now a young adult, you think, yeah, this is great, we got to do that. But on the other hand, you're now in a different bracket.
Of course.
And you're thinking, wait a minute, this isn't adding up in my bank box.
That's
here.
right. That's right.
So you've got
Yeah.
you've got a whole middle-aged and older group of people who are your
That's right.
voters, your best,
That's
who are
right.
getting out there,
That's right.
versus the ones who are a little bit wet behind the ears, understanding that as they get older,
That's right.
the tax situation is going to get very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So you're willing to hear this, and I'm so glad. Brett, good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you at town
Appreciate
meeting.
it. We'll see you at town meeting.
All right, take
Thank
care,
you.
everybody.
Thank you very much.